And we are live. Welcome to another episode of Business Focus Live with me, John, where we talk about business related topics as well as news from here and around the world. If you're new to this channel, don't forget to subscribe and let's get started. And we're back. Thank you again for joining me today. Today is June 24th, 2022. So, here are the things that's been going on this past week or so. None more so the bigger news or one of the biggest news is regarding cryptocurrency in terms of if it's a viable choice on investing your money here. Well, sad to say, the Bitcoin has crashed to an all-time low for as much as $20,000 from as high as $60,000 just a few months back. So, what's the repercussion for this one? We'll talk about that. Next is we're talking about how Amazon is running out of workers. Funny enough to consider that for as big as Amazon is in terms of their warehouse workers, they might run out of that. Is it due to external or internal problems here? So we'll talk about that. Next is one of the big box office success, the Top Gun Maverick, which I've seen it this past week, few weeks ago. Uh, it was surprising that it was able to do really well and become one of the most successful films for Mr. Tom Cruise's franchise, considering he has created other films as well. So we'll talk about that. Next is we'll be talking about, sad to say, with the limited or scarcity of our oil in the world, prices are skyrocketing at astronomical prices. And what does this mean for the consumer moving forward? Here we'll talk about that. And lastly, along the same lines, increases in prices. In this case, Tesla Model 3 vehicles here. And the question is, will people still be buying them despite the many issues that the company is encountering with regards to car safety, with its autopilot features, and the list goes on and on here. Anyway, so let's get the discussion started. So with our first topic, as mentioned, regarding how investing in cryptocurrency could be lucrative if you were to consider how it has risen in the past few years or so, especially during the pandemic. And lo and behold, this is what the scenario has been. This is how when you say the term volatile, well, this is what it means. How fickle the market is. Once sometimes it goes high, really high, and then it goes down or really low. Like in this case, could spell doom and gloom for many investors who have invested a lot of money here. And I was one of the many people who has been apprehensive in terms of investing in this type of platform because it's all about speculation. There's no foundation, no basis as to when you talk of bitcoins or cryptocurrency coins that you're mining here, which exacerbated the GPU shortage and caused another industry problem with the PC in general. But that's another discussion here. So looking here at the article cnbc.com, Bitcoin sinks below $19,000 as crypto meltdown intensifies. So this is not good from where it was before to where it is today. So it mentions that the price has below 19,000 below since way back in 2020. And Ether, on the other hand, has plunged below $1,000 since hitting its lowest way back in 2021. So meaning cryptocurrency investors are grappling with the higher interest rates and the worsening liquidity crunch, which is obviously it's not looking too good if you're planning on investing here. And the question is it time to pull out? If we were to look at the price, so let's take a closer look here. So you can see here, as of currently the market summary. Where's the price? Let's see. Okay, the Bitcoin price max. Let's use the max. Okay, so you can see here pre 2020, the popularity of Bitcoin hasn't gone nowhere for the longest time. Then when the pandemic hit, the popularity of cryptocurrency has risen significantly, reaching for as high as $61,000. Then it cratered. Then it dipped significantly last year, around June, to half of what it was worth a few months earlier. And then it reached its peak again around $60,000, 61, or in this case, it reached even 64,000, slightly over. And then it cratered, tremendously here. It rebounded slightly early this year, but to where it is right now, this is not looking too good here. If you're an early investor here, then maybe you were given two chances here to, once you've invested a significant amount, had two chances to recoup your investment before it cratered. So meaning up to this point, if you invested early on, you know, pre-pandemic or early in the pandemic period, you could have sold all of it, and then you have another chance here to sell it as high here way back in November last year. But after that, based on the trend here, it's either going to get worse or it will appreciate again slightly. But as the trend has shown, it has not gone beyond where people were speculating that it would reach beyond 60, 70, or even reach a very optimistic amount of 100,000 here, which is not looking too good. And especially for those companies that are, namely Tesla, who's not Tesla, but Elon Musk has been promoting, using cryptocurrency as a means for financial transactions, in particular buying Tesla vehicles. And to where it is now, seems kind of iffy or fishy when you think about what's his agenda behind it. Why is he trying to push cryptocurrency, knowing that it's a very highly volatile investment here? So it mentions in the article the price of Bitcoin fell as much as 9% in the past 24 hours alone, to around a little over $18,000, which is not a good sign here. Ether is the second largest Bitcoin cryptocurrency token, plunged roughly around 10.5% to as low as $963, so which is not a good sign either way you look at it. And even Terra, a so-called stable coin that was meant to be worth $1, crashed to a fraction of a cent, taking an association called Luna down with it. So meaning all of the cryptocurrencies that are popular at the time has faced severe crashes due to many factors. Now obviously mining has been more difficult, especially for many countries like in China, limiting or stopping people from using an exorbitant amount of energy to be able to mine using GPUs here. And obviously a lot of hedge fund companies is leveraging that the value will appreciate over time, which is not the case here, which is pretty concerning here. And the question here is, what do you do now once have seen this outcome here? Should you still stick with your investment? Well, it's important to understand, is your investment going to be still here stable, safe in the next few years or decade, let alone the next few months here? And if the case here is it's not as strong as one would like to be, and how volatile it is in just the past 2 years here, then you should think twice in holding on your positions in this scenario here. And moving forward, people should take it with a grain of salt. No matter what the trends are, maybe we shouldn't follow what the trends are, regardless if it's Elon Musk or someone else trying to promote cryptocurrency as a very safe and wise investment here. Obviously, it's a high risk, high reward scenario, but the point here is, is there a way to minimize the risk here in terms of understanding what makes cryptocurrency works here? But that's not the case here. And what's interesting here, according to the article, this process is without doubt painful, but ultimately the lack of a centralized backstop is a good thing, as it means moral hazard is avoided because there are no bailouts in crypto, unlike a flat in a flat system. So if it fails, it will fail tremendously, and then we'll be on to another, whatever the fad is moving forward, whether it's crypto or something else. So we'll see here. Anyway, continuing with our discussion, so we were mentioning earlier regarding how Amazon could be running out of workers in the very near future. I mean, as early as early in 2024, that's 2 years away. And what's the cost behind this? So let's take a closer look. So according to Gizmodo.com, uh, it mentions here that employees aren't an eternally renewable resource, according to an internal company document leaked by Vox. Now, what does this mean? So let's take a closer look. So Amazon, the company notorious for its awful labor practices, to say the least, is grinding through its potential workforce too fast. According to an internal company research memo leak and first reported by Volks, if we continue business as usual, Amazon will deplete the available labor supply in the US network by 2024. Now, what is the issue all about here? And as I mentioned, Amazon is encountering a lot of internal and external issues here with how they deal with their customers is one, how they deal with their partners, sellers is another, and obviously the most critical part is the internal employees that supports the entire mechanisms of Amazon, not just the Amazon headquarters, there are other services, but the Amazon warehouses that supports the Amazon deliveries of your goods and services once you place an order here. And the fact that issues from unrealistic expectation, making unreasonable quotas in terms of delivery efficiencies, all of those, especially for the Amazon delivery workers. So whether inside the warehouses versus the delivery people, having to pee on bottles so that you don't, you save on time. It's unrealistic, that to the point that they're trying to unionize, and then even the company has tried to stop the employees from unionizing, which is it's only a subsequent of because of the plethora of issues that was mentioned in previous articles here. And now we're here today. It doesn't surprise me that this is going to be a ongoing problem, and whatever the company does will be moot, because the fact that their salary compensation is not sufficient is one, and then the safety track is not sufficient as well, and everything else that's surrounding the position of being an Amazon employee is tenuous at best here. So question is, will Mr. Bezos do anything about it, or will they stick to their guns and try to replace those people? And take note, have one of the highest workforce for any companies, hiring almost close to 1 million people worldwide. So you can just imagine the legwork that they need to be able to replace all those people. And obviously, if the same problems keep repeating, then it will go nowhere, and it will get worse before it will get better here. And it mentions here that Amazon warehouse have an extremely high turnover. Pre-pandemic, Amazon hemorrhage workers at the rate of 3% per week. So that's per week. That's very staggering, meaning 150% turnover every year. So meaning, let's say you have 100,000 employees, so you replace 150,000 employees a year. So you do the math, considering the different locations of the total number that they have, is pretty staggering, which is not a good reflection of how you take care of your employees, or even if you take care of your employees in the first place here. Focusing on the bottom line, at any cost is one thing, but neglecting your employees is very concerning here. And according to Vox, they mentioned also, Pagan said that he also had doctor's note, but was told that the company did not need to accept it as an excuse. They don't even accept that one. Even though he had been excused from work with a doctor's note previously, he said he worked for another full week without issue until he showed up one night for his overnight shift and his badge no longer worked. He was eventually told he had been terminated. An HR manager told Pagan that there was nothing he could do about the termination, but Pagan should reapply for a job at the company in 3 months. So, it is if that's their policy, so go ahead, but there will be repercussions, and having a very stringent process, just to protect the company, but not protecting the employee, which is a very key integral part of any companies, regardless if you're Amazon or not here. And obviously, the salary and the internal issues will promulgate here, no matter what amount of money Amazon throws us with their PR department or their law department. And it's going to get worse. And obviously, when the government steps in, that's going to be another issue altogether here, which is, if I were Amazon, I would uh, try to address it ahead on, rather than let it get worse before, ultimately, if you're cornered, if you have no options left, then you have to change, similar to how Activision is doing with regards to how they treat their employees there as well. And the fact that they had an internal investigation where it says they had no wrongdoing, well, obviously, it's not biased. It's the same people who work inside the company did the investigation. Why not let an external party did do the investigation, and let them say if there's any such wrongdoings occurring in the company? But obviously, they're not going to do that. Anyway, we'll see we'll see in a few years' time what Amazon will do here. Now, obviously, turnover is never good for business, since high turnover rate, because you have to train again those employees, new employees, and training those employees can cost a substantial amount to the company. That's why some of the best companies try to spend so much in terms of retaining the best talents in the world, rather than getting new hire. Yes, it's cheaper at the start, but investing time and effort on it, making those mistakes, can be detrimental for the business operations, and it causes a lot of headaches. That's why you train your employees to be the best versions of themselves, and you retain them until maybe they quit, or maybe retire, something like that, but not fire them just because they are insufficient, maybe having unrealistic benchmarks, expectations, which is, imagine if Mr. Bezos were to do those things that they're asking their employees. Do you think he will not complain also? But we'll see. Anyway, continuing to entertainment in this aspect, what's interesting is, if you watch many of Tom Cruise's film, has been many of them have been doing really well in the box office, and none more so than the latest version of his recent launch or release of Top Gun here, Top Gun Maverick, which I was able to watch the film. It was very interesting. It took several decades to be able to come up with a sequel, and obviously, he was very careful on not just reprising the role of Maverick, because he tried to do that with the Reacher series and even the Mummy series, which failed miserably, which obviously didn't go well with the masses here. But for this one, it has to be right in terms of the story. Now, not to say that there's any plot holes in the story, but there is. But anyway, in terms of being highest grossing movie ever for Mr. Tom Cruise here. And let's take a closer look. So what's interesting, the last Mission Impossible Fallout generated less than 800 million. But what's interesting here is Top Gun Maverick has earned more than $800 million for the film, which is one of his highest grossing films of all time, which is kind of surprising. Despite there's a upcoming sequel to the Mission Impossible series again, which I'm sure will do well because of the action pack genre that he creates as Ethan Hunt here. And obviously, getting to the 1 billion mark is very important to know that what you're doing here is on the right track, and people clamor for more, which just goes to show, if people like your film, none of those shenanigans, identity politics, like what Lightyear tried to do, will spell doom and gloom for the particular movie franchise, or in this case, movie. Now, obviously, Top Gun Maverick is not does not come without any faults, in terms of, they did mention in the film who their antagonist here. They just mentioned they had to attack a base, but What helped is the story behind the main plot of trying to recruit the best pilots, and how the character Maverick here was included, and there was a cameo of Iceman here, played by Val Kilmer, which was kind of interesting here. So it's not perfect, but it does get the job done in terms of providing entertainment for the masses here, and that's all we could always ask for. Now, question is, will he create more? Because you can only do so much in in an aging pilot instructor slash friend and so forth. So it gets interesting. And don't get me started with the love interest here. The love interest of Maverick here in the previous film was not included here, and they tried to introduce a different character altogether here. But that's minor picking here anyhow. But the point here is, at the end of the day, if people like the film, people will watch it in droves, and it will generate a substantial revenue here, which is congratulations to Mr. Tom Cruise here for doing a spectacular job. And obviously he was focused on creating a realistic simulation of, fighting a jet plane, the dog fighting that they wanted to recreate, which was not easy to do. None of the CGI. Obviously, it creates they try to do practical effects here, meaning actually flying a jet plane, trying to catch it in with cameras, when the pilots were trying to do different maneuvers and so forth here. Well, so I recommend checking the film out if you haven't watched the film. So looking forward to the next film for Mr. Tom Cruise here. Anyway, on a sadder note, uh, obviously traveling, doing our new normal here, going back to work and school would be tremendous. But an interesting development has happened, which is not good for many of us, especially if price is a very key consideration in terms of our fuel prices. So with the limited supplies, not surprises, with the limited supplies of our gases, whatever the government is doing, the companies are doing, trying to restrict the supplies, and how they price it, keep on increasing the price, has been exorbitant from one week to another. I could remember that the price of diesel gasoline was only around 25, 30 pesos at the time. And as the years went by, obviously, with the scarcity of prices and the global threat that's going on around the world, prices have been increasing, and obviously companies here in our country are capitalizing, whether there is an actual shortage of supplies, or because of the cost of maintaining it, or whatever the rationale here. What's interesting here, according to the article at philstar.com, pump prices are going up anew, which is never a good sign if you're a motorist here. And I was surprised a few weeks back when the price was, I think, around 70 plus pesos per liter, and then a week later it became 80 plus. Then it will become, in the near future it'll be 90 plus and 100 plus. And obviously, here's what I imagine. It used to be, if I were to fill up a diesel powered engine, 500 bucks, I could get half the tank full. Now it's getting depleted, so it's now less than one half, and then it eventually reach one fourth, and now eventually 500 bucks will not get you anywhere. So you need at least 1,000. You need 2,000, 4,000, and even more. And obviously your purchasing power will be limited because of the increase of prices of gas prices here, which is never good for anyone here. Which just goes to show you that we need to find alternative ways to be able to move around. And obviously public transportation would be a nice idea for the government to implement, or we can find alternative renewable energy that will be efficient and cost effective. Now, whether electric cars will be the solution here, maybe hydro, water powered engine, solar, maybe not, or a combination of all of those, who knows. But time is ticking, because eventually prices will be so expensive that no one can afford it anymore. So all those car manufacturers will be out of a business very, very soon, if that were to continue, with its current trajectory here, which is kind of concerning if you're a motorist here. Well, obviously, it's either you're able to afford it because you're earning more and more, or you're spending less on other things but focusing more on your gas fuel here, then you're able to mitigate those expenses. But again, those are not long-term solutions. It's only a temporary solution. So question is, what could be a viable long-term solution for every one of us that can benefit tremendously here? So we'll see. Anyway, finally, for our last story, we're talking about increases. Well, it's kind of surprising that Tesla is increasing their price for their Model 3 sedan and Model Y by as much as $4,000 in Australia. Now, what's the rationale here? Given the plethora of issues of Tesla vehicles, not just on the hardware components of their vehicle, but as well as their software component because of the car crashes reports in the United States, right? The question is the popularity still growing? The adoption of electric vehicle has been growing steadily, that people are still clamoring for more Tesla vehicles, regardless of what safety it provides. Does it provide viable alternative means for combustible engine using electric? Question is, how are those electric power plants being generated? Are they still using fuel? So it's a catch 22 issue here. But nonetheless, what's interesting here is, will people still be buying their vehicles? Are they still that popular that they'll pay a premium price for owning a Tesla vehicle here? Anyway, so Tesla mentioned they're increasing the price for their Model 3 and Model Y just 1 week after launching their Model Y in Australia. So being consistent is not one of Tesla's motto here. So take note that the Tesla's price is now 63 or $64,000 before, in increase to 65,500. And then for the real wheel drive Model 3, there's an increase of $1,600 here. So the long range Model 3 is now costing you $80,000, up from $76,000. So that's a pretty, you might say, consider a slight increase, but still nonetheless, why are they arbitrarily increasing the price? If you're trying to pre-sell those vehicles and then keep on changing the price, then it just goes to show they didn't do the right costing for their vehicles. They keep on arbitrarily changing it because of current situation, and meaning it's not ready for sale, or if it's ready for sale, you mismarketed your products here. The question is, will people still continue to purchase their product, which is the main issues here. And as mentioned here, all prices are before on-road fees and taxes. Notably, the real-wheel drive Model 3 will still qualify for most states' EV rebates here, which is, again, what makes them affordable technically, because of the rebates that many of the countries are able to provide, so that they'll be enticed to buy those EV vehicles. Because without the rebates or the tax incentives that the governments are providing, the cars would be in the north of 100,000 at the very least, and it would price out many of the buyers who's considering buying a Tesla vehicle here. Now, according to a spokesperson for Tesla, confirmed that the orders for Model Y placed before the price rise or increase will be honored. So that's good, but it's still expensive, right? And unless there's a change in an order, such as adding enhanced autopilot, again, they keep on using the keyword autopilot in their feature, which is a very misleading term, because when you say autopilot, it can drive itself. Well, technically, it can do autopilot feature, but some of the time, but not all of the time, because to be considered autopilot, it can do many of the things that a person does when you're driving a vehicle. Anyway, that's a whole kind of words that I don't like discussing it, maybe in another discussion. So meaning you can still buy it at the original price if you reserved it, which is what they're trying to capitalize here. But the question is it still viable buying a Tesla vehicle, since other car companies are trying to delve into this market? You have big companies such as Ford, GM, you have Toyota, even European car models, Volvo, Mercedes, and a lot more. And the question here is, are they a viable uh, alternative to gas power? As we've discussed earlier, gas price has been creeping up slowly and eventually will be priced out in terms of being able to buy those very expensive fuel. But we'll see. Anyway, I think that concludes our discussion for today. If you have any questions regarding the articles discussed today, I leave the link in the description below, and you can leave your comments down below if you have any questions, and I'll try to get back to you. As always, I'll see you again next Friday, same time, same schedule. Hoping permitting with good internet, having difficulty with our internet connections this past few weeks or so. So kudos to PLDT for a terrible job. Anyway, so that's it for now. I'll see you in the next one. Take care.